What's going on, guys? Dirtsheet clocking in from the Spoiler Alert Network. We're here with another episode of TSAN After Dark. That is where we talk about the spooky, unexplainable things that happen in this world that we are not meant to understand. Now, in order to really grasp what I'm about to talk about for this episode, I really need you guys to take everything that you think you know and forget it. Throw it out the window. None of it matters. Because we're about to talk about one of the most controversial topics among humans in general, and that is the idea that there is life out there besides us. Now, the universe is a very, very large, seemingly infinite place. A place that we don't have access to in this moment. We are not technologically advanced enough to reach the darkest corners of the universe. And the Milky Way, Earth, our planet, is a corner of a massive room that is the universe. So that really gets you thinking. Like, I'm not a very scientific oriented man, and I don't typically think deeply about the universe and the way things work, but it really gets you thinking, what are the odds in the entire universe that we are the only intelligent life form that exists? In my opinion, very minute. It is, in my opinion, I don't mean to offend anybody, very arrogant to think that we're the only life form that exists in the universe. And there is thousands, if not tens of thousands of claims a year from people about alien abductions, UFO sightings, encounters with alien life. The list goes on. Now, a lot of them are very stretched, so a lot of them are probably made up. But there's a handful, there's a group of these thousands and thousands and thousands of claims that could be true, that make too much sense not to be true, that stuff doesn't add up, or it can't be debunked. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I have notes here of 4 encounters that stand out to me that we're going to go over, and I want you guys to just really bear with me here, because it is a very controversial subject, and it's easy to be like, oh, it's all fake. But just listen to these stories, listen to these claims from people claiming to have encounters with alien life. Now, first, the Roswell UFO incident, 1947, one of the most well-known UFO sightings or incidents in history. Rancher W.W. Mac Brazil in New Mexico, 1947, came across a 200-yard long aircraft crashed, and the U.S. military quickly climbed in and claimed it was a weather balloon. 200 yards long, looked like a spaceship or some sort of aircraft that was crashed, and the U.S. military tried to cover it up by saying it was a weather balloon? That makes sense. 3 years later, same area, humanoid figures were seen falling from the sky, in which the Air Force swooped in, quickly picked them up, and released a statement saying that they were crash dummies that were being released at various points of elevation to determine and practice whether a pilot could survive a fall to the earth from an aircraft or not. Seems very fishy that they swooped in so quickly and scooped these dummies up and didn't want anybody to see them. Now, none of it adds up. 3 years after an alleged UFO sighting in the same spot. Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Betty and Barney Hill, 1961. One of the most well-known cases of alien encounters in history. Again, they noticed a strange light above their vehicle when they were driving home to New Hampshire from Canada for the holidays. Now, the light gradually got bigger and got closer as it moved until it was eventually over their vehicle. Now, Barney, the stud, decided to take out the binoculars in his vehicle and see if he could get a closer glance at the light. Now, through the light, he was able to see, roughly in his estimation, 10 humanoid figures in an unidentified aircraft observing them. They panicked, they floored it. What anybody would do in that situation. Now, they eventually got home to New Hampshire, but they had discovered that a 4-hour drive had literally doubled. It took them 8 hours to get home from where they were, and they noticed their watches had stopped working, and there were tears on their clothes like there was a sign of struggle. They don't remember anything, though. But a week goes by, and they both recall having similar dreams to being in a brightly lit room with, it says, humanoid creatures that placed needles in them. Betty said she recalls needles being placed in her. And Betty also said that on the dress she had wore that night, she had noticed a weird pink powder was on it that she had no idea where it would come from. Now, these are two members of their community that their neighbors did not think they would make this up for publicity. They said that they were genuinely terrified when they were talking about it. So, next, we have Amy Ryclone, 2001. Somewhere in Britain. I don't know. They have weird names. But on October 2001, her roommates claimed to walk into the living room to see that she was being dragged out of the window towards an unidentified aircraft, in a beam of light. Now, obviously, in that situation, what do? You panic, you faint. That's what happens. So, her roommate fainted, but screamed beforehand, so her husband rushed out of the room, seeing the beam of light too. They couldn't recover Amy. And then before they knew it, there was no sign of the aircraft, no sign of Amy, but outside the window where she was taken, the bushes had been seared, scorched, burned, if you will. Seems weird, right? Now, 2 hours go by, they call the police, no sign of Amy. The police are quickly debunking it, thinking this is all for publicity. Now, they get a call 8 hours away in Mackay, Queensland. A citizen had found Amy and taken her to the police precinct. She was dehydrated, confused. It didn't look like she was physically harmed. There was a couple grazes, but her clothes were torn, and she couldn't recall who she was. She was taken to a hospital with some time. Apparently it was amnesia. She was able to recall who she was, and she was able to recall fragments of what had happened, claiming that she was in a bright room with tall figures taking samples from her. Another unusual thing about this situation is that her body hair had grown an absurdly unusual amount since she had been gone. Now, she was only gone for 2 hours. How did she cover 8 hours on foot? It doesn't make any sense. Next, we have Robert Taylor, 1979, Scotland. We're going back in time a little bit. Now, fun fact, in case you guys didn't know, in 2012, there was 7 alleged alien encounters in Scotland alone. So much so that the British Ministry of Defence took them very seriously. Very seriously. For the government to take it seriously, there might be an issue. Now, Robert, in 1979, claimed to see a quote-unquote dark metallic flying dome. And he smelled, again, quote-unquote, a heinous odor, almost like burning brakes. Now, he seen the dome, and then he was grabbed by the ankles before losing consciousness and waking a little later. Now, he wasn't physically harmed again, a couple grazes on his chin, on his forearms, but he noticed he was on his hands and knees, and his pants had tears where he had felt like he'd been grabbed. Now, his dog was there too, and his dog was panically barking, freaking out at something, didn't know what, but barking up a storm. Robert tried to calm his dog down and realized he had lost his voice. He literally could not talk. He couldn't utter a sound. And then he also realized he couldn't stand. He was very weak. Not hurt, but very weak. He actually had to crawl back to his truck to drive home. And when he got home, his wife was so scared for him that she called the police. The police went out to the scene of the incident where Robert had reported seeing the flying dome, and they had reported what looked like ladder marks in the soil above where the dome was. Terrifying. Now, Robert, this is what stands out to me. Robert, again, was claimed to be an upstanding member of his community, but Robert never seeks financial or public gain from this situation. He actually did not want to talk about it. Obviously, he was interviewed about it and stuff by the news, but he actively avoided talking about this subject because it terrified him that much. Scary stuff, right? Now, it is. It's terrifying, honestly. And honestly, thinking about this particular question of, is there life out there besides us, it raises more questions than answers, because if there is life out there besides us, are they aware of us? How much more advanced are they than us? What are their intentions? Are they threatened by us? Are they curious about us? We don't know. The fact that we can't answer these questions terrifies us. Terrifies me. So, I don't know what you guys think. Get in the comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know your input on this. If you enjoy these After Dark videos, be sure to stay tuned on hashtag Spooky Tuesdays. That's when these release. And for more questions, concerns, or fears about what lurks, be sure to join us After Dark.